Yes, ladies and gentlemen, new year, not new team forever, but new team for today anyways. It's Monday Night Raj as we are covering Monday Night Raw. We've got Corduroy, Jimmy Korderas, me, Jack Farmer, and of course, the boss man himself, Raj Giri, in the house. How you doing, buddy?
You ever took a trip down to Cobb County, Georgia? Isn't that the Boss Man song?
It is.
But,
can't say I've been to Cobb County, Georgia.
No, I'm doing good, man. Obviously, it was a scary night for NFL fans. I'm sure everyone watching, it was scary stuff. But Happy New Year to everyone, and yeah, I guess I don't know how you transition out of that. But,
exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I guess thoughts are with Damar Hamlin, and I still don't know what happened with everything. I guess we're all kind of waiting to see what happened, but definitely thoughts with him and his family, and hopefully everything works out.
It was wild because I usually watch, depending on what's happening, I have my iPad and then I have my TV, and one is on Monday Night Football, one's on Raw. And it was one of those things where it looked like a routine hit. And then he went down, got up, looked fine, and then just collapsed. And it was just like, whoa, what just happened? And they administered CPR, and it was just like, it was the scariest thing I've ever seen. And I hate to say this, Jimmy, because I know you were there, but I just got flashbacks of Owen that night. And it was, it's terrifying. And
yeah, especially the mystery of it all and not really knowing what it is. And hopefully they know what it is, and we just don't know what it is yet. And it's I don't know what the fix is for this, but hopefully it's something that's not as bad as it seems.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can only hope for the best for Damar Hamlin. That's for sure. Because like you said, Raj, I was there that night in Kansas City, closer to it than anybody.
Right.
And I'm not saying that as a, you know what I mean? It's just, it is a very, very difficult thing to handle, and the players, your teammates and stuff like that, just like a wrestling locker room, they become almost like your family, your road family. You know what I mean? And it just, I can't imagine not only Damar Hamlin's family, but his road family too. They must be going through a real tough time right now. And my thoughts and prayers are with them all.
Definitely a reminder of just how dangerous a lot of the stuff is that happens, and how, you got to be thankful for every minute, because you never know when certain things might happen.
Yeah.
And again, not to, and again, Jimmy, I know you were there. It's, and I don't, I hope I'm not,
no worries. No.
stepping over a line or anything, but it had that it was that same, like I had that same pit to my stomach when it was going on. And where it was just,
the hardest part is not knowing. That's the whole thing, not knowing what's going on. And like you mentioned, trying to, compare it to that day, that horrible, tragic night in Kansas City, we didn't know what was going on either. And, I was even at the hospital at the time, and, hearing the news there, it just blew me away.
And tonight, again, times are different. Tonight they canceled the game, but there was, for a while, it looked like we were going to resume. They were not, it took about an hour before they officially canceled the game. So it's just, it's one of those things those decisions are so hard to make, and it's just.
Well, you look at it, and I'm sorry to interrupt there, Raj, but you look at the type of game it is. Football is such a rough and physical game, and your mind has to be on the game. You have to be aware of your surroundings at all times on that field, because there is such physicality going on. And if your mind is elsewhere, that's when other tragedy can potentially happen. So I think good call to just,
And there is such a built into us, the show must go on. and so it is hard to make that decision to cancel something or to stop something.
Right.
Especially with something like football, where if you don't know what's happening, I can imagine someone saying it's unfortunate people get injured, but it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunate doesn't be the right decision to say this is something more than that.
Right. And this is going to sound sick, but I'm sure some of them, the execs are like, well, we have these ad spaces we got to fill and, all that kind of stuff. When someone is clearly badly injured, it just, I don't know. It just sucks when you get the health combined with the business it just, my thoughts are with, Damar Hamlin and Hamlin. I mean, sorry. And it was rough to watch.
We got a couple of super chats regarding it from Ralph the Ace, who says, first, this was a scary night watching both events. This puts in perspective live events. Took the NFL almost an hour to postpone. Coaches made the call, brought back a lot of 1999 memories. Ralph went on to say, to follow up, these decisions are very difficult, puts live event emergency in full focus. Hard to know what's going on. Prayers to him, his family.
Right.
Yeah, obviously.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely one of those deals that, it's tough to know what to do, but I think when someone's life may be on the line, you got to, you definitely got to reevaluate what's what you do. So
real quick, we got some comments in the chat. Ricky, do we sound better now, or are you still having the same issue? Please let us know.
No,
a couple of people saying, I think my mic might have been through my headphones as opposed to the mic. So hopefully it's fixed.
Okay.
Does it sound different?
You sound the same as when you started.
Yeah, to me too. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a little point there, Jack, where you had a little bit of a minor hiccup, but that was it.
Well, in any case,
apparently Tommy O says you guys are good now. So thank you, Tommy.
Okay, maybe it was just a internet connection or something.
There you
go. Let's talk some news. Let's talk some wrestling news. Let's talk about the wrestling world and how we're all eagerly awaiting Wrestle Kingdom 17 for a number of reasons, not to mention the one a lot of people are waiting for, Sasha Banks making her long-awaited return to some capacity. However, the former Raw and SmackDown Women's Champion might not be alone on her overseas trip. PW Insider reports that her former tag team partner Trinity, known as Naomi in WWE, is also slated to be in Japan. Raj, this is, I think, right now, Sasha Banks, Mercedes, whatever name she's going to go by, is a big deal. It's a big thing. Is her bringing Trinity with her, does that add on to it for you?
I mean, I have no idea if Trinity is there on an official capacity or is just a supporting friend. Mm-hmm. It's an expensive trip to go as a friend, but still, maybe she is. I mean, they got money, so I mean, this is I'm not one of those that likes to burst my bubble, or I don't know what the right saying is, but I've reported back in the summer about Sasha being granted her release, and she had a non-compete. Obviously, it just came due, and but finding out stuff about Naomi I've never got any word either way. So I don't know what the deal is right now with her. I don't know if she also got a release or if she's still under contract, but I think it's definitely very interesting. And look, Sasha, if she's used right, she could be a factor. But if she's one of those like Saraya, when she came in, huge pop the week she came in, 2 weeks later, she's nothing. It all depends on if you use her in the right way. So we'll see.
Yeah, Jimmy, it's definitely Sasha. Mercedes is one of those, probably a handful of people in wrestling right now that is starting to make that crossover to people who aren't watching wrestling who know who she is. And that makes her exceptionally important. But also, I think with wrestling fans, we count too, as wrestling fans, there is something about the big story that happened with both of them and then both leaving at the same time. Like Raj just left us high and dry.
Yeah.
But walking out, the idea that it's both of them together does make it a little bit more spicy, right?
Yeah, of course it makes it spicy. And, it's got people, thinking what's going on here. And, is it because it's not official that she's there for the event. It just says that she's going to be in Japan at the same time as Sasha Mercedes or whatever name she's going to go by. But is it in support of her friend? And there's also rumors about possibly WWE reaching out to, New Japan and maybe a working relationship, if you believe the rumors. And, Carl Anderson obviously going over and doing his little thing there and WWE allowing him, whereas in the past that would never, ever happen. So, all this talk about forbidden doors and stuff like that, who knows? Maybe this is a first notch into opening a door. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? There's so many possibilities here.
Right. Yeah, I think it's funny because I think if you look at Ronda Rousey right now and you look at Sasha Banks, who would make more of an impact, for a big WrestleMania match? And to me right now, it's Sasha Banks. You get Sasha, against Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair or Rhea Ripley. Sasha is the one, not Ronda. I think she's a much bigger star right now at this point than Ronda Rousey is. And that's no disrespect to Ronda Rousey. No, it's just where we're at.
Yeah, and if I may interject here, she is a bigger star to the, like you said, the wrestling fan, the hardcore wrestling fan who is really pays attention to the goings on outside the ring as well as what's going on TV and in the ring and on pay-per-views and PLEs and all that sort of stuff. So I'm curious to see what's happening, what the next steps are going to be. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, if you also look at the way they're trending, Ronda Rousey is a massive star from her time in the UFC, but every year that goes by, those days were longer ago where, Mercedes is in The Mandalorian. She's in, Barmageddon's not the biggest show in the world, but she's on there right now. She's doing things that make it look like her stock is going up as opposed to what she did in the past. So if I am if I'm looking at who would be the big star I want the person who's going to get bigger, not the person who's done the thing. And I don't mean to say Ronda's I'm not saying she's washed up, but the one that seems to be trending upwards is Sasha right now.
Yeah, and Ronda, she's one of those, she's a star that everyone knows, right? She's the biggest household name in WWE. More people know Ronda Rousey than probably anyone else in the company. But she's no longer at that point where I could tell a friend oh, Ronda Rousey is going to be wrestling. You should come watch this. And they'd care. Her impact has definitely dropped, I think, if I tell a friend Stone Cold is coming back or The Rock is coming back, they're in. And if I tell wrestling fans Sasha Banks is coming back, I think, not a casual person, but a wrestling fan, they'd be interested. So I think she's just Sasha right now is the biggest name out there that's not currently aligned with anyone.
Yeah, I would agree. I think she's the one I think everyone's getting. So, hey, it must have paid off for her to do what she did, because I bet if she signs another contract, it's going to be a bit bigger than the one she had when she left. So I'm always a fan of talent betting on themselves and winning. So
she's definitely up to her negotiating power. That's for sure.
Yes. And before we get going, I did want to put up, we got a super chat from Juan. Thank you so much. Now, there was no message in there, Juan. So if you do have anything you want to say, just go ahead and put it in there and we'll put it in the chat and we'll make sure to shout you out there. But either way, thank you so much.
And we did get the other two super chats, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Gotcha.
But let's get into the show. Before we chat about everything, of course, thank you for everyone who's listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere your audio podcasts are. Thank you to anyone who's watching YouTube later on. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. But if you're here with us live, please join in the chat. Join folks like Ethan Cruz and Jakey Bakey and Dylan Matthews and Zook Enigma and Juan, who was just here a second ago, Ricky and everybody else, Johnny, Adam, Bit, and Tokes Kazim, and everybody else. Thank you guys so much for joining us live. Let us know what you thought of the show. I'm going to let you guys know what I thought of the show, because that's the part of the show we are in on our show. Lots of shows. It's an onion. You got to peel it a little bit. We start with the Bloodline running roughshod, and it's a hostile takeover because of Kevin Owens. Adam Pearce says he's done letting the Bloodline do what they want, and he sends security and the locker room after him. Raj, it's been a while since we've chatted, but one thing that doesn't change is I love a good locker room empty and melee. I loved the start of this show. This one picked up hot. I loved it. What did you think?
That was a great opening. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Bloodline. They're awesome. And Sammy, Sammy, if you start off the beginning of last year and saying, hey, we should pair Sami Zayn with the Bloodline, people would be like, no, that makes no sense. And it has just been genius. It has been the best thing going on in wrestling. Sammy is just on another level right now. The Bloodline, they're great. Roman Reigns to me, I know we disagree on this, but to me, Roman Reigns was the wrestler of the year. Every match of his feels like a big event. And to me, to hold that up and to just feel important every time you're out there means a lot. And so to me, he was the wrestler of the year. Obviously, I wish he would be on Raw more, but I thought the open was great.
We can debate wrestler of the year all we want, but no one's going to fault you for picking Roman Reigns as wrestler of the year.
Jimmy, who would you pick real quick?
I would have to agree, and I don't want to sound like the guy who's just jumping on the bandwagon, but like you said, it's been a long time where we've had a superstar come out that makes every time he steps in the ring for a match feel special. And that's what Roman Reigns has done. Yes, we see him on TV. We see him in the locker room with the wise man, Paul Heyman, and all that sort of stuff. But he looks like an important individual. He looks like he's ruling the roost. He looks like he's in charge. And you know what? And he's doing a great job of getting people to want to see him get his ass beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like I've said 100 times before, it's like the wheel. It started off as made of stone, then it became wood, then it became rubber, then vulcanized rubber, run flat tires, stuff like that. The tire evolved, but at the end of the day, the tire is round. And Roman Reigns is that old school heel, but in an updated version that still generates that heat, and which, especially with the hardcore audience today, is hard to do.
He's believable. Jack, I think you picked Mox, right?
No, I said Rollins is my wrestler.
Oh, Rollins.
Because I gave it to him because he's been on more, and I give guys a lot of credit when they can feel like a star even though they lose a lot. I think that's a tough thing to do.
You lost tonight.
Lost tonight. I think that when you can keep the audience behind you the way he does and be as entertaining as he is and lose as often as he does, I don't know. I feel like he to me he was the wrestler of the year, but I'm not gonna. If if the world said Roman Reigns is wrestler of the year, I'd be like, I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna argue.
Well, it all depends on what your criteria is, because Roman's hardly wrestled on TV, right? And so, when people are like, "Oh, Mox wrestle way more," okay, that's cool. But wrestling matches that no one's watching, he's wrestling matches on Rampage, but but if that's more important, whatever. I guess it all depends on your thing.
And the storyline he's in is just phenomenal. Like you said, the supporting cast, it just adds to everything he does.
I mean, my daughters don't watch wrestling that much, but they'll watch it here and there. They'll go, and I showed them that angle where Sammy was being turned down, and then he got the honorary Uce shirt, and they popped. They they loved it. Like this angle, and everyone involved, Sammy and then Roman with his, his persona, the way he plays off of Sammy, it's just amazing. It's some of the best TV, wrestling TV I've seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, I and going to bring it back full circle, I think Sami Zayn is the reason it's still going great too. I don't know if they didn't get Sami Zayn, I think a lot of us would be like, okay, it's getting kind of old. But Sami Zayn made it fresh, made it entertaining, made it different. We don't need Roman anymore because he can carry the load week in and week out. And Raj, to your point, like you said that January 2022, I'd have been like, what? What? You're crazy.
Yeah.
But here we are. I do have one quick question for you, Jimmy. How much do they pay the security at WWE? Because if I was working security and go get rid of the bloodline, I quit.
Yeah, I question that too. I don't think they make enough. They couldn't pay me enough to do that anyways. But
nope. I would tell Adam Pearce respectfully, they can stay there as long as they want to.
Right.
So that sets up a few matches down the line, and we'll get to those. But we get a matchup that I have been waiting all night to talk to Raj about. Bianca Belair versus Alexa Bliss. So we get a quick promo beforehand. The story of the match here really comes at the end where guys in masks are at ringside and on the Titantron. Still the Titantron to me. This makes Alexa Bliss go crazy, and she attacks the ref. She attacks Bianca, and then she DDTs the champ multiple times before leaving. And, of course, later in the night, Alexa says that she's in Bianca's head and the title is hers. Raj, I'm going to go back-to-back first question with you. How did you like the magic of this?
Oh, God. You know, I mean, it's funny. Like, there are certain criticisms that I know as soon as I make it, I'm going to get a lot of hate. You know, making fun of Uncle Howdy.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're like, oh no, it's great, you freaking idiot. And look, Alexa Bliss, going back to this Bray Wyatt stuff, it just it's like terrifying. I just hate it. I hate the magic. I think Alexa Bliss was the best when she was just on her own, a heel before that. And I just hate it. And also at the end, when you had Alexa, and I tweeted this out, but Alexa Bliss beating Bianca Belair's ass at the end, to me, it's like the Miz beating up Brock Lesnar. It's just, I just don't buy it. You know, it's just hard to buy into. And
well,
I don't know. I just couldn't get into it. I think Bianca's on another level. I think Alexa's a great personality. Her going back to the Bray Wyatt stuff, a step backwards though.
With the Bray Wyatt stuff, and maybe this is where I start to get yelled at too. I like the idea of Bray Wyatt, I think, is what I like the idea of it. I like his promos. I also think it's been like 6 months, dude. When are we going to start getting some wrestling matches instead of just these teases? When are we? Okay, there's more guys with masks, but there were guys with masks in the crowd back at Extreme Rules. Like what? I feel like we're just not moving this forward. Jimmy, does this work for you?
You know what? It can, but the way it's being presented right now is not working, because one of the things that bothers me about this whole situation, especially tonight, it made the title feel secondary. Do you know what I mean? Yes, I get the whole idea about maybe she's being possessed by this demon or this character that, you know, that has some kind of, you know, mystical powers over her. Okay, I get, but at the same time, this is your Raw Women's Championship that you're talking about. And she kind of forgot all about that, it meant nothing anymore. What meant was me getting back to this evil persona.
Right.
You know, and again, this is a business based on wanting to be champion, because when you're the champion, you're the top, you're the top of your field. And I think that's where they lost me tonight. And especially at the end too, I get it. She attacked the referee and stuff like that. And it took forever for somebody to come down to anybody. When did it ever, you know, does nobody in the back watch the matches on the monitor? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you don't get a real announcement for the finish. It's later on. It's kind of like the announce team kind of covered by saying, oh, it was a disqualification because she attacked the referee, but it wasn't an official, you know, call.
Jimmy, I think you need to talk to some of these referees because lately in WWE, they've been getting beat up a lot. Like people have been attacking them a lot lately, it seems. They would never mess with you, but you got to teach them how to defend themselves a little bit, Jimmy.
Well, back in the day, I got beat up by the other referees. So, every once in,
I'm trying to put you over, Jimmy.
I know, but there's the problem. See, when I stand up and say something, the other referees kind of get hot at me. It's just kind of like the ones in AEW are probably hot at me right now.
I like what you said though about the title feeling secondary. It does feel like a lot of what we're seeing could have been Bliss versus, Tegan Knox or someone else, and still get this without putting the title on the back burner.
And real quick, a question kind of on the wrestler of the year, as far as the women's wrestler of the year, I'd like to hear who you guys pick, but for me it was Bianca. But I feel like she hasn't had that big feud because it's just kind of like this person comes in, beats her in a tag match or whatever, gets a title shot. She hasn't had that big story, like that big nemesis. And Sasha could have been it. And, her match at Sasha at last year's WrestleMania, it was epic. But she hasn't had that kind of feud this year where it really took her to the next level. And I feel like she needs that. And this Alexa Magic stuff, isn't it, in my opinion?
Yeah, female wrestler of the year, I say Mandy Rose. I mean, she was the face of NXT 2.0 the entire year. And she wrestled a lot. I don't know, like she was basically like held up that division. No, not saying that no one else in that division was any good, but like she was basically the tent pole of that division for the entire year. You got to give her some credit.
Yeah,
I say Mandy Rose.
Okay. Well, it's funny because, it could have been Charlotte who was out for a long period of time, and showed what kind of an attraction she can be just by coming back this past Friday on the last SmackDown of the year, showing you what kind of a star she is. Maybe you can make a case for someone like a Bailey, in my opinion. Again, and here I go back to talking about heels actually being heels and generating heel heat. And that's what she does. And she does it very well.
Bailey would be on my list too, I think. She's been great, but she's been out for half the year. So that's
exactly
why
that's Mandy. The problem, yeah.
Because Mandy, most of them haven't been, outside of Bianca, I think most of the big names have been hurt or off at some point.
But there is also the whole thing of being on the big stage. Being on the stadium shows, being in front of 40, 50, 60,000 fans.
Right.
And NXT, you're in front of that same crowd week in, week out. And because of that, I almost disqualify NXT talent on everything, same as
Chase, you packs that place out. What are you talking about?
Right. It's funny. Like I was getting a lot of heat because when I tweeted out, who do you think is wrestler of the year? And I didn't include Dax Harwood. And people are like, how do you not include him? And I'm like, well, he's had a great year of matches, but he's won one singles match the whole year. So, when you're looking at, when I think of wrestler of the year, I'm thinking about people carrying a promotion on their back and they're headlining the pay-per-views and they're not just having good matches. And so, I felt like on the female side, I thought Bianca was the closest to that, but you didn't have like the year before, like Charlotte Flair or Sasha Banks or someone really like that you could put in that main event. And you just didn't have that this year.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I would be okay with Bailey and Bianca in that conversation too. I think they were both great too. And
I like the point you made there, Raj, about it's much more than having 4 5-star matches.
Right.
That was awesome.
I mean, Dax could be wrestler of the year. You're just talking
right. Yeah. Best in ring or best technical sure.
Sure.
because he did have a pretty good year.
He was awesome. He's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, FTR. Again, I wouldn't vote them tag team of the year because again, they've lost like their last 5 matches. They weren't on any of the pay-per-views. I don't think they ever had a single straight up tag match on AEW pay-per-view.
They were on tons of pay-per-views, just not AEW pay-per-view.
Right, they were on Forbidden Door and stuff like that, but but not on and I don't get what happened, but the fact that they didn't have that match with the Young Bucks, like titles versus titles, and that big match, such a lost opportunity. And that's not on them, but it didn't happen. And ultimately, booking is part of it.
It's a side thing, but I think if the Acclaim didn't take off the way they did, we would have gotten that draped in gold FTR, which is what I think they needed. Like, I really wanted that visual of them with all of the titles, but also Acclaimed was so hot. Like, I'm just like, you can't have FTR beat the Acclaimed right now.
If the Acclaimed if they were able to keep up the next year what they did in the last 4 months, they're tag team of the year next year. I mean, they're the most overact on the show a lot of weeks. They're that rap they did on Jeff Jarrett last week. Oh my god, it was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
As they say, that ruffled some feathers.
Jack, you're muted for some reason.
I'm muted again. Can you hear me now?
What's going on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear any of you guys. Hold on.
Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear Raj.
Hold on 1 second.
Is it let us know in the chat if you're having any audio issues.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Dylan Matthews says he can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you too.
Dylan says he can hear all 3.
Okay.
So let's use that. Speaking of hearing, Dream Realm Studio says all 3 as well. So
okay.
And Ricky says 1, 2, 3. I think he's saying
fine.
testing 1, 2, 3, but I'll count that as hearing all 3, Ricky. Let's
okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Speaking of hearing, let's talk about a Music City street fight. Elias demands a street fight and he gets it, but he doesn't get the concert that he was about to play before Solo came out. Match we got was far more hard hitting than I was expecting to, given the setup, but Hardy gives Elias a guitar and it doesn't work. So Hardy gets in the ring and uses a guitar himself on Solo, which I'm sure if you're just reading results is going to be very confusing. Solo hits Elias in the throat before slamming him through a piano. Jimmy, this, I said it as I was explaining this thing. I thought this was going to be just a silly, goofy, fun time match. And we had a little bit of that, but it felt like Elias was trying to place himself amongst the heavy hitters.
No, and I think it was well booked for Solo as well to make him look like the badass individual that he's being booked as. I thought they're booking him precisely the way he needs to be booked. He has to look like a beast that just can go through anybody right now, except for a tambourine. That was the part, like you're hitting him with a guitar, but he's selling more for the tambourine. And I'm like, oh my goodness. But other than that, I thought, hey, good hard hitting win for Solo. And especially considering, other members of the Bloodline aren't doing so well.
I mean, Elias was, look, I know Solo's the guy, he won. That's the story. But Elias feels like he was putting some extra stank on those chops throughout this match. It felt like he wanted to show that he can hit with the best of them as well. But Raj, I'm worried. Elias took a shot to the throat. Will he be able to perform next week?
Elias, he was trying to get in his minutes for sure. Like he was. I felt bad. Like that piano didn't break all the way, so that probably hurt. At the end, they had Elias do his promo at the beginning, which that's what got him over in the first place. And so it was great seeing them allow him to get back what originally got him over. I look at Solo Sikoa, and I said this about Samoa Joe before. Like if they book Samoa Joe on the WWE main roster, like Solo Sikoa, he would have been massive. Granted, Samoa Joe got injured a lot, and who knows how it would have turned out. But man, they are doing a great job with Solo Sikoa. The guy looks the part. They're just doing an amazing job. So I thought this went off great, and I enjoyed it.
One of the few times where I think both guys came out looking, because Solo, again, clearly the star. I don't know what their plans are for him, but I could see him challenging anybody right now. But again, Elias, I think he's someone who always has these short matches, Raj, to your point of him getting the most of his minutes. And this one felt like the first time we've seen him just like go for a little bit in a long time. So we'll see where those guys go. We did get a super chat from John Jordan. We're going to go back a little bit. The Wyatt stuff had potential, and I'm all for the long-term stories, but dragging on and now diminishing others. What happened to Funhouse characters? Sloppy.
I will say this. I think LA Knight has been just outstanding in this. Like, he is fun to watch. He is just owning each segment. I hope this doesn't end with him squashed in 30 seconds and ooze coming out of his forehead. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, but you're right. You're right, Raj. He's, on the stick, he's just killing it. And, and I hate bringing up the conversation. Oh, well, that's the difference between the promos back in the day when someone else was in charge. And now that Hunter's in charge, the guys are given a little more freedom on the mic to experiment. And maybe that's the case. And maybe that's what's working is the guys are told to feel their characters and be their characters, and LA Knight, like you said, he is killing it on the mic, man. Wow.
He's great. Yeah.
So good. He is so good. I'm with you, Raj. I feel like he's like carrying these. I'm rooting for LA Knight in this rivalry. Just so you know.
Same here. When I see Uncle Howdy, I'm like, oh god, this is dumb as fuck. But
like, I can't wait for LA Knight to cut a promo on Uncle Howdy now. Like, he's just gonna tear him.
And when he's like, you're doing your, when he rips Bray, it's just like dead on. It's just he's so good, and he's natural. It's not like he seems like he's rehearsing lines and he's trying to spit out these insults. He just blends it. He reminds me of MJF. Like, it's just it just feels natural coming out of his mouth. He's great.
Absolutely.
He absolutely is. And we got Dylan Matthews, Jiff King, saying LA Knight, Money in the Bank 2023. I would love LA Knight with that Money in the Bank. Yeah. Whose game is it? Whose case is it? LA Knight case.
Dude, I even though storyline wise it doesn't make sense for Bray Wyatt to lose his first feud, I'm all for LA Knight winning this.
Hey,
I'm really rooting for LA Knight. Like, I know everyone else is. Come on, Uncle Howdy, or come on.
This Uncle Howdy stuff. I was in the mountains and I was trying to watch SmackDown. And I was there with my brother-in-law, their family, and they're like, "Oh, the girls can't watch wrestling," and I had to turn it off. But it started with the Uncle Howdy stuff, and my daughter's like, "Oh, who's on?" I just couldn't even say it. I couldn't say Uncle Howdy. I'm just like, "Oh, it's nothing."
I mean, not to make this a SmackDown show, but I like the idea, but I feel like I want to see Bray Wyatt have rivalries with other wrestlers, not just its own show with his own character. Give him his own show, and he can do his own characters and stuff. But right now, I just want to beat him up.
He has been elevated in this feud.
That's true.
He wasn't doing much before, and now, he's in the featured spot with a big star. So again, I hope he doesn't get squashed and ooze comes out of his head, because this feels like he has been owning it, and he's the most entertaining part of this feud, in my opinion.
I think he's going to lose, but then the next, I think after that they're going to go, "Oh, he's actually a star. Let's do something with him." But I have a feeling his fate has been sealed with.
He can't win this feud. Just
Bray Wyatt.
Right.
No, it's just that he has to bring out the absolute worst, or which is the best of Bray Wyatt, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the LA Knight character can do that.
Yes. So we'll see how that one plays out. But we have a 6-man tag: Street Profits and Kevin Owens versus the Usos and Sami Zayn. The story here is Montez isn't really present as he's thinking about what happened with Bianca. Eventually, he kicks it into high gear before he gets Haluva kicked himself, and he gets pinned. Solo Sikoa was getting involved, and of course, we get a post-match attack, but it's stopped by Sheamus and Drew McIntyre as they arrive and get rid of the Usos. Raj, this is just that perfect pre-Royal Rumble, everyone is beating up everybody situation to me. What were your thoughts?
I think Dawkins he's almost really underrated. He has gotten so good. He was awesome in this. Montez Ford is a future superstar. I think when I was watching him and Sami Zayn, I'm like, with the right storyline, this could be a pay-per-view big match down the road. You know, I don't know if it's maybe Montez is world champion, because he's gotten to that point where he's got the look, he's got the athletic ability. He could be a world champion down the road.
Yeah, and he's got all the stuff you see on TV, obviously, but also just his backstory is great. You know, former military, stuff like that. If you said to me, Jack, in the future, Montez is the world champion, I'd be like, yeah, I believe it. It's not weird to me. But I like what you said about Dawkins. I think Dawkins is underrated too. I feel like Dawkins heard everyone chatting about Ford and was like, okay, I got to do something about this.
He is awesome.
He is awesome.
Yeah.
He's really stepped it up. He doesn't get all the I feel like all the respect that he deserves, but he is really good. And
got in shape too.
Yeah, he's
everyone in this match is so good.
Yeah, he's like the Marty Jannetty of this group. You know what I mean? Because everybody forgets how good Marty Jannetty was in the ring, actually.
Yeah, Marty. yeah.
He was. Yeah,
he was amazing. He just had his issues, but he got fired every 7 days.
But Jimmy, this is again, it's Royal Rumble season, and we've got what's different here from what maybe old regimes is, not only do you have the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre showing up on Monday, but you've also got that little bit of crossover with Montez being upset about something that happened in Bianca's match that may involve Bray Wyatt. And I feel like so much stuff is intermingling here that if we had the Royal Rumble tomorrow, I'd already be interested in seeing what happens between different people in that match.
No, absolutely. And that's the whole idea. Going into Royal Rumble season is planting various seeds, different seeds, not just a seed here, a seed there. A lot of seeds need to be planted that allow for a lot of opportunity for intermingling different, rivalries. Let's put it that way. It doesn't have to be, okay, we're going to marry this person with this person for a long feud, or this one and this one. This is now, you can see this group versus this group. You can see this guy versus that guy, and kind of switch things up around. And even kind of a little dissension amongst teams themselves. You can see almost with the Bloodline, maybe there could be a little bit of once they get into the Rumble, so to speak.
The Rumble's going to be so interesting.
This Rumble is looking like it could be one of the best in years.
Yeah.
It's going to be so good. I'm so excited. It's going to be. I love the Rumble anyways. So,
and this year, if they get all the names that are rumored right now, you get Cena, Stone Cold, The Rock. I mean, and then on top of that, Lesnar, Roman, your current stars. And I know some people are going to roll their eyes, but Goldberg. You have these mega stars over 2 nights, and you mix and match those with Cody and Seth Rollins, and it's just gigantic. I mean, if they're able to get all those names, it's just insane what they could do.
Do you go? That's the question, though. Do you go to a 40-man Rumble again? Or is that just too many people?
I like the idea, but on the day of, I remember thinking okay, we could probably skip ahead of
pare it down a little bit.
I remember once, when we were at 25, and I was like, oh wait, there's 15 more to go. I was a little bit like, oh,
what is that? Sorry, I lost the audio there for a second.
Do you think they should bump it up to 40-person Rumbles?
I know.
I like it 30.
Yeah.
On paper right now, I'm like, the more the merrier. But I just remember that day going, oh, okay, we still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
And Jim, you were with WWF in 1992, right?
Yes.
That Royal Rumble was the most insanely packed Royal Rumble. You had Savage, Hogan, Piper, Flair, DiBiase.
Yeah.
It was just Sid Vicious. I know, he's not remembered as fondly, but he was
He's
a
one of my
huge
all-time
star.
favorites.
Right.
He was awesome.
I love Sid
Undertaker,
Vicious.
Snake Roberts.
It was
just
insane.
It was
if you think back to
insane.
it, yeah.
The
You think back
Bulldog.
to it, it was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. My God.
Mhm.
Justice for Sid Justice, by the
There
way.
you go.
I love Sid. Sid was one of those guys when he's on TV. How can you not look at him? He just pops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when he has a microphone, he's crazy. He's crazy.
He had this line. I remember like walking to the ring one day, just such a random one of those one-offs, but he was like, "Who opened up the gates of hell and let this man out?" I was like, that is just the coolest thing I've ever heard. And it was just something just off the spot that he was doing.
Mhm.
The greatest one was when he was there's that video where he's talking, I think, the Outsiders or something, and he was like, "You're half the man I am, and I have half the brain you do."
Oh yeah, oh my goodness, tremendous.
Yeah, when he said
People
that,
made fun of it, but I was like, that makes him sound more dangerous to me.
He's out of his mind. This guy's good. You go.
Right.
He's a crazy guy.
Psycho. He's crazy.
that barber shop when he like destroyed the barber shop and he had the shaving cream on his face and he just looked freaking crazy. It was awesome.
You're right.
Yeah, I loved Sid Vicious. We have
Sid
speaking of psychotic people, we have Dexter Lumis in a match going up against Chad Gable. Looks like Dexter's officially moving on from The Miz here. I thought Otis was the MVP of this entire segment, but ends with Dexter getting the win with a pin reversal. Jimmy Korderas, where was The Miz and Bronson Reed? It's now been 2 weeks since their team up.
I have no idea. And there was no explanation, no nothing. And no Johnny Gargano as well. So, it's just, I don't know. I want to say there's something missing with this Dexter Lumis thing. There's something that is just not, whether it's, the rivalry he's in right now or who his opponents are. And don't get me wrong, Chad Gable. You talk about underrated. There's a guy who could be, a single star or even a tag team star with Otis. But so it just seems that right now there's something about Dexter Lumis that's not clicking. It's not, the whole idea is to get you invested in him as a character, as a performer, as an in-ring talent. And he's not doing that right now for me anyways.
Yeah, Raj, what's your take on Dexter? I don't know if we've had the chance to talk about Dexter Lumis together. What do you think about the guy?
I think he's just been miscast. I feel like his character, one of the problems I think with Triple H bringing in all these people is that he's assuming the audience knows everyone from NXT. I feel like, and I think Triple H has been doing a great job. I feel like the products has been much better, but a lot of these people don't know who Dexter Lumis is. A lot of these people don't, anytime he's bringing it, Jonah, when he brought Bronson Reed back, it was silence. And, I think for some of these where you have a character like Dexter Lumis is a character, some vignettes might help out or something where you're introducing them to the audience as opposed to, what's really interesting is that the NXT 0.0 guys, and I'm talking like Sami Zayn and Nakamura and Charlotte Flair, when they would come up to the main roster, they were super over. And then these NXT 2.0 guys, when they come up, no one seems to know who they are, even though they're in a much wider audience being on USA as opposed to the 0.0 was on the US, on the WWE network. So it is kind of interesting that those guys were way more over than the theoretically the ones that should have a much wider audience.
Well, and I think too, I think you make a good point about Dexter being miscast, because I think it's not just Dexter, but they're kind of presenting him the way he was when he was with Johnny Gargano and the way and all those things. But it's actually kind of a nuanced thing where he's this psychopath that is never not charismatic, but we love him because he's a part of this group, but we don't know the story of the group on the main roster or what this is. And so we're supposed to like this psychopath who never talks, even though they've not really done anything to make me like Dexter Lumis outside of him feuding with Miz, who I'm not supposed to like, but outside of
they
that,
were in cahoots for a while, the storyline's very convoluted. I think they need to make him a killer heel. He's just like make him ultra violent, in my opinion. Just something different, or he's choking people out, doing
likes to hurt people. A guy who likes to hurt people.
Just scary, crazy. And then down the road, if you want to, make him funny or whatever, at least the audience knows who he is. But they know originally that this character is supposed to be this crazy person.
Right. Because it was interesting that watching this match. It felt like the crowd didn't know how to react. It also felt weird that you have the guy whose catchphrase is "shoosh" facing a guy who doesn't talk. It felt like they couldn't. Like, how do you have any back and forth when the guy's saying "shush" to the guy who doesn't say anything?
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned the crowd. I was going to mention this earlier, that they just didn't. They seemed fairly quiet most of the night. They didn't. I don't know how to explain it other than they didn't. There were times where they came up and they started clapping and stuff like that, but for the most part, they sat and watched.
Right. Raw crowds seem to have that a lot, where it's just kind of like people are just watching. They're not like going crazy. They're not like getting into it. And it's weird because it's not a WWE thing, because I don't feel that with SmackDown. SmackDown, I feel like the crowds are usually hot. Yeah. It's just weird. Yeah. No,
it just tonight it felt more noticeable.
Yeah. It was they got hot near the end though. We'll get to that in just a second. First, we had a quick video about Cody Rhodes coming back and his journey on the way back. Raj, you're a betting man. What do you think his odds are of winning the Royal Rumble?
He's the guy, right? Who else?
Goldberg.
It's him or The Rock? Goldberg. Look, hey, I'm a Goldberg fan.
Me too. I will support Goldberg until the end of time. I still
want to see Goldberg in Austin at some point.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
Me too. Wow. People who weren't there during that era.
That's the dream match. Yeah, they don't get it.
If we're not
like Demolition of the Road Warriors, I'll still pay for it. Well, I guess. Oh, jeez. But Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, if they were able to do it.
Goodness.
Even though it would suck. But anyway, I just think Cody. And you know what? Yeah. Like Cody is one of those. When I was trying to think of the biggest stories of 2022. Vince retiring is obviously number one. I feel like nothing can top that. But number two, I feel like it's Cody coming in and leaving AEW. It was the first, major person. And AEW hasn't really been the same since Cody left. Like the storylines haven't felt like every pay-per-view. It feels like the main events coming together like the week or two before. It's not like you have all these weeks and weeks of build like you would have before. And it's just been. I just feel like his exit was a much bigger deal than we might have thought at the time.
And the video package they showed tonight of him and talking about his dad and the whole stuff, that was, you talk about production value, and one of the things that WWE does very well is those video packages, and the one they did for Cody tonight, I thought was a home run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Cody Rhodes, especially after. I've been a fan of Cody for a long time. I was a fan of him in AEW, fan of him when he showed up. I lost my mind when he came out at WrestleMania.
That was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
It was so good.
When people talk about Booker of the Year, I will say this: Vince had his few months, like April to June. That was a hot period. He booked Cody beautifully. Like that was an amazing way that they did his return. And the follow-up, it was pretty flawless.
Yeah, and I think that Hell in a Cell match with Cody, that to me, that like I don't know the phrase, like legendified him, something like to me, like dude, he's set. He's a made man in my world. Like,
it was one of those things I hated watching it just because I was like, oh my God, look at him. Like if he just misses one thing, or, you know, if he's not able to put weight on his shoulder, you know, and it turned out to be just the best thing for everyone involved.
Right.
If I do too many push-ups, I can't move my arms that well. I'm watching him just like, dude, what are you doing?
I'm like that after too many false finishes. I go, okay, guys, please go home.
Don't make me count 3. This mat's pretty hard. My fingers hurt.
No, I'd rather count 3 than 72 twos.
I'm not paid by the hour. Just wrap this up.
Right.
We do got a couple of super chats I want to get to. Going back to Dexter, Alvin Everett says Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis, please. So put them together. They were successful in NXT, but I to Raj, your point, I don't know if anyone knows their story. It would just be like, random person, right? You have to reintroduce, like I felt like Tegan Knox, like they didn't reintroduce her, and I felt like she kind of suffered because of it. It was just kind of, I mean, you can get there, but you got to get there, I guess.
Right.
And Amit saying with a super chat, hello guys, happy new year to all, Team of Wrestling Inc. and the fellow audience. Raj, you tweeted about 3 women WrestleMania matches today. I'm confused. What is the situation of Sasha Banks?
Wow.
Okay, so by no means am I saying Sasha Banks is back with WWE. I have no idea where, you know, she's showing up for New Japan Stardom this week. I'm just saying, if WWE was able to get her, that would be huge. Like having, in my opinion, Ronda Rousey versus Rhea Ripley, and have Rhea Ripley destroy Rousey, like you had Lesnar do it with John Cena at SummerSlam a few years ago. I think that would be like a star-making thing. And Charlotte Flair and, who did I say? Now I'm forgetting. And then Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks. I think those are 3 like huge matches. Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair was what I said. And I just think those would be like, they're different. They haven't been done. It'd just be huge in my opinion. So, but by no means do I think necessarily Sasha is going to WWE. If I were to put money on it right now, I'd bet she goes to AEW.
Interesting. We'll have to see how it plays out, but
so she could appear on Wednesday nights right before the main event.
Right. You know, I mean, and I had tweeted this the other day, like if you bring in Sasha and you don't have a plan, you will get that 1 to 2 weeks of buzz, but then you're just back to her being a cog in the wheel. You need to have a real idea, a real big storyline, because, you know, you don't get the opportunities like this that often. So, and to your point, Jimmy, I just feel like AEW has not done the best job with the women's division. Most shows have 1 women's match. It's on before the main event in the death spot, and I don't know if they would be able to do her return justice.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I think she should sign with whoever pays her the most. That's right.
I think that's her opinion too. But if I were booking it, I'd have Sasha come in and destroy Jade Cargill, win the title, and then want the AEW women's title, and Jamie Hayter avoid her, and then like she's trying to get that and chasing her. I think that would be, you know.
Are you listening, TK?
We have Dylan in the chat saying, put Indy in damage control for a boost. Was Xia Li in damage control? Did something happen with that, or am I mistaken? She attacked somebody, didn't she?
No, it's always been Bailey, Io, and Dakota.
I thought she did some kind of shenanigans where she got outside of the ring. Maybe I'm misremembering something, but
there's something about damage control that just isn't clicking, in my opinion.
Right.
It's they're there to be there, but it's not like it doesn't. When their music hits, you're not like, oh shit.
Right.
They fail. They're failing in winning matches that matter. That's the problem. when Bayley and I guess just real quick, they had a match versus Becky Lynch, and of course, Michin shows up halfway through, but of course the Damage Control gets the win here. So we'll just set that up. We got the tag team match. Damage Control gets this win, but Raj, you were about to say something, and I just wanted to say I was prefacing it by saying they win these ones, but then when it's time for like Bayley winning the championship, they always fall short.
Right.
You know, the problem I have with Bayley is I just don't think you could really hate her. She just is such a likable personality that if you're booing her, it's almost like you're just playing along as opposed to you're really booing her. She's just I just don't think she has that personality where you really want to hate her, like a Ronda Rousey or a MJF or Roman Reigns. There are certain people where they can strike a nerve. I just don't think Bayley is that. I don't think she's a heel, in my opinion.
Yeah,
she's entertaining.
I get your point, but at the same time, I do hear boos for her, which is a credit to her being able to get that, especially as someone like you said who just looks like a likable person.
Right.
Yeah, she is likable. I think I get what Raj is saying because she does a good job of like saying mean things, but it's almost so funny in the way she does it.
It's
like,
cute.
It's almost I guess it's almost like someone you're like. I feel like it's a wink, wink, nudge, nudge every time she says it.
Right. Like she's being entertaining. She's being an entertaining bad guy. Come on, kids, boo her.
I like Bayley though, so I don't want to. I
love Bayley.
But maybe that's the problem.
I think she's
love
super
Bayley,
talented.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Raj? What do you think about Michin or now I'm Mia Yim?
Yeah.
And what do you think about the name debacle? What do we call this person?
I don't know. It's been kind of a mess, I think. And when you're doing that, when you're going back and forth constantly with the newer character, how are the fans supposed to react?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're kind of chopping her legs off a little bit.
Yeah, I wish we made the joke weeks ago that we wish they would just pick a name, and I feel like they're still going back and forth whenever they call her, whether it's Mia Yim or Michin, or I guess those are the only two options. But
it allows you to play the home game where everybody chips in and say, "Oh, what is she going to be called this week?"
But
I haven't watched SmackDown last week's SmackDown yet, but they did that whole thing where the week before she was under Hood. Was there like a payoff with that, or when she? No. I mean, because they made it look like a surprise attacker, then it turned out to be her. I don't know.
Yeah,
that was it.
Well, speaking of surprises, Jimmy, this was the thing that I took away from this whole match setup here that I'm shocked more people were talking about. As Damage Control was walking to the ring, we saw Adam Pearce speaking with MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander in the background.
Right.
Don't know if you noticed that. Are we getting the Hurt business?
Obviously, we talk about seeds being planted. That's a huge seed that was being planted right there, that maybe they are getting back together. And conspicuously missing was Omos. I didn't seem to notice him. And I don't because
Lashley. Oh, well, I guess Omos too, because of MVP.
Right. Yeah. So, hey, maybe he's trying to get the old gang back together again. Who knows? I'd be fine with that because I think Shelton, you talk about underutilized talents. Shelton Benjamin is one. Cedric Alexander is great. And MVP as their talking head, it just works. It just works.
And clearly, like Lashley and Lesnar is still happening, right? Because he was the only person ever to leave Lesnar laying after their match was over. Like that just never happens.
Right.
And I think Lashley as a heel, him with MVP, and then Omos in his corner. That's a cool dynamic. I just feel like Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander kind of been damaged a lot to where it gives them something to do. But the Lashley, Omos, MVP dynamic, I think, could be something pretty big.
Yeah.
This is me fantasy booking. Can you imagine Royal Rumble? People are everywhere, but in one corner you've got Cedric fighting someone, in the other corner you got Shelton fighting someone. Bobby Lashley's music hits. He comes out, and then they all stand together, and you're like, "Oh, it's Hurt Business," and they beat people up. I don't know.
That would be cool. And that's the official
they all.
regroup.
They do it kind of like the old like when the ECW came together way back in the day, where they're all like in the ring, and suddenly they all they're one team.
Right.
And then Lashley throws them all out.
The Almighty, get out of here.
There you go.
And then the Bloodline shows up, and Lashley goes, "Man,
I'm out."
Yeah.
We got a couple super chats here. One from Juan asking, is Cena versus Logan Paul a Mania top match? Jimmy, what do you think?
Not
main event. Let's say it's third biggest match. Would you say it could be the third biggest match on the show?
I don't. I know that a lot of talk about Logan Paul, but I think for WrestleMania this year, if you're going to have someone like The Rock there, potentially there, and something like that, this match falls further down the list than third. Let's put it that way.
What about you, Raj? Do you think it could be a top three? I mean, maybe not main event either night, but could it be like the second biggest match on one of the nights?
I know Logan asked for it on his podcast, but to me, Cena versus Austin, that's the one, right? Like that's
everybody versus Austin. Goldberg versus Austin.
Yeah, CM Punk versus Austin if he were able to get his release. But realistically, Cena versus Austin could have happened. There's no reason why he can't. If Austin is training to come back, for me, Logan Paul, I'd love to see him and Seth Rollins. After seeing what Logan did with Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel, I think him and Seth could just have a banger. And because there's no natural big match right now, in my opinion, for Seth. So I think that would be awesome.
We also got on Alvin following that up with a comment saying, what does Logan Paul gain from fighting John Cena? I think Cena should give the rub to the future of WWE like Theory. Plus, I'm praying for Charlotte Flair versus Liv Morgan at Mania. I don't think every appearance needs to be given the rub to somebody, but
right.
If someone's at that level and you're giving them the rub, that's one thing. But I just think Cena versus Theory does 0% for ticket sales, right? Like Cena versus Austin, that's something you could tell your friends about. Like that's 2 generations.
And you talk about the fan who has kind of departed and hasn't been back for a while. That is a match that would probably get those fans. Oh, I got to come back for this one.
Yeah, I always say people talk about like the rub and stuff like that. That's not what Mania is for. Mania is supposed to be the as big of a star, as big of a show as you can make. It's not about like give this person a chance. It's like what is the absolute most blockbuster thing we can do.
And the rub has to be done right. Just randomly someone beating you. If you have Chad Gable beat John Cena, it's not like that's really taken him to the next level. It has to be a sustained push, or someone that's on the rise, or and then that win means so much more. And Jimmy, I've never asked you about this, but this has been a hot topic in the last few weeks. The Starrcade '97 finish where Hogan and Sting and they had that the fast. It was supposed to be a fast count, but it was a normal count.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a Hogan versus Andre moment that was just blown away. They just screwed it all up. Yeah. And Sting was never the same after that. And Bret Hart looked like a complete dunce being there, restarting the match with what looked like a clean finish.
Right. It just goes to show you sometimes that back in the day when politics got involved in wrestling, how it could actually screw up things completely. And that was something that screwed a lot of things up. And it got people, disinterested, for lack of a better term. So, that's why I hate when people start choosing sides. And I get talent trying to protect their interests. But at the same time, there's a way of doing business the right way. And, back in those days, there were guys who just sometimes didn't do business the right way.
No, that was complete BS.
I was very unhappy. I was a big WCW guy, a huge NWO guy. That's probably one of the most anticipated shows I'd ever seen. And I just
the
remember
climax of the whole WCW thing was that night.
Yeah.
And they screwed it up.
Oh, I was like, I remember like the next day, I was like I was,
what was that? Yeah.
I was so upset. Bret Hart was one of my all-time favorites. I loved Hogan. I was like, this is the best thing ever. I was just like, Jack, what's wrong? I don't want to talk about it.
It was terrible. It was supposed to be the torch being given to Sting. Sting was, I think people forget. Same thing with Goldberg in '98. People forget how over Goldberg was in '98. He was gigantic, but people forget how over Sting was in '97. He was huge when he would come, from the rafters. People just went ape shit, and I mean, it was gigantic. And they had booked such a perfect storyline, such an easy ending, and then they screwed the one part up.
Yeah. And see how you can screw up huge with just one part being screwed up, because the build to that match was great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I always felt that if WCW won the Monday Night Wars, we'd be talking about Sting more like we talk about The Undertaker today. Like, I think that would have probably been the way he projected had WCW continued and WWE was the one that went away. But
he wasn't the same after that. Like, I mean, they had him beat Hogan like a couple months later, and who remembers that?
Right.
No, they missed it. They missed the boat. It was I'm so angry. You ruined my day.
Sorry for bringing this up.
But we got, we got a super chat. We can fantasy book all we want. Dylan Matthews, though, he has a doozy. Scripps versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think at Mania is what Dylan means to say here. I think print your money.
Wow.
Okay, I'm an old man. Who's Scripps?
It's Reggie's new thing in NXT.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Dylan.
You don't need to go out of your way to look it up. But something you should look up if you haven't yet. It's Dominik Mysterio visiting his dad for the holidays and getting arrested. That circulated a little bit online before the show, but today we saw fresh out of prison, Dominik Mysterio, a new man, Jimmy. Wow. Someone who prison changes a man.
It absolutely does, and it changed Dominik Mysterio. And ever since joining, Rhea Ripley, Mommy, he's just been on a different plane right now. He has really embraced this new persona, and this now. You talk about the evolution of a character coming out of jail. Hard time hardens a man. My goodness, you see with the toothpick and the whole bit. He was, again, he nailed it tonight. It was awesome.
Raj, if Dom starts throwing that toothpick at people, I'm gonna lose it.
Oh man, he's a cross between Razor Ramon and TL Hopper with that. Dom is, look, Jimmy, I know you're in the boat. You're friends with a lot of the guys. You don't want to rip on people a lot. And Dom was one of those. He was just so uninteresting to me before, and now he is just nailing this character. Him and Rhea, they're outstanding together. They're just gold together, and I just feel like he has found his calling, his niche, whatever you want to call it. He's been fantastic, and Rhea's great. This is one of those Sammy Bloodline things where it's just everything is clicking, and I love it. And I thought the Christmas stuff was great. Dominik saying, "I can't handle jail," and then you got the tear tattoo. Oh, I mean, it was just oh my god, it was so good,
tremendous.
Kind of like what you said at the beginning, Raj. Could you imagine at the beginning of the year saying, "You know who the star of the Judgment Day is going to be?" Dominik Mysterio.
He's so good,
just so entertaining. That whoever is the first to really give him a comeuppance moment is going to be the place is going to explode. They're going to love it. I can't believe Dom is one of my favorite people in wrestling right now. It's fantastic.
Just seeing the Raj, just seeing the transformation as someone who was there and saw him as a little guy at ringside when
When
having
Eddie was
fun
his
with
dad.
Daddy. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was tremendous. Just watching the evolution of him right now is, you talk about guys, and you've heard me say this how many times before, being able to do a twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splash and getting a yay. Dom is getting over without having to do that stuff, and he's still getting over huge.
Yeah.
Oh, that I won't make it in prison thing is going like that. He's set. I don't care what movie. I don't care how many rotations you get in your dive. Like I won't make it in prison.
Yeah,
trumps all of it.
It seemed like a natural spot for Nails to reappear, but him and Vince, I think he might be a little blacklisted. But
hey, Triple H is bringing everybody back, Raj.
That's true. But man, Dom has he's been outstanding in this, and I just feel like he's look, I put out a tweet earlier today, and I thought it's funny because I thought I was going to get a lot of hate. And I said, I should actually read the exact thing, but basically I said, character and charisma ultimately is what matters. And whether it's AEW or WWE, I know people say AEW, oh, you be a great worker, and you're not going to be in the main event pay-per-view spot unless you have charisma. That's why MJF just dwarfs over everyone, right? Like you have to have that. And you're starting to see Dominik excel in that, and he'll jump to the front of the line with it.
Yeah, it's that. Like I said, whenever he gets that match where he's going to get beat up, that's going to print money. It's going to print money. Like if it's like,
and when he beats Ray,
the place
he's going to beat Ray.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
at
WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Oh, the place is going to boo so hard. See, I'm so excited.
But it's a funny thing that you say, Raj, that he, because of his character right now, he jumps to the front of the line because he's killing it so good. But there's going to be that audience out there, the hardcore guys are going, oh, the only reason he's in the place he's in right now and position he's in is because of who his dad is and stuff like that. Right. And yes, we get it. His dad may have helped him, get there. But it's up to you to still,
right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people
say that with everyone. People who said that about Roman Reigns, like, oh, he was only top because Vince pushed him, but he is clearly the top guy right now.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
At some point, do you move numbers? Do you move interest, or do you not? And Dominik's getting there.
Yeah, he's figuring it out. We got Theory versus Rollins for the U.S. Championship. Both of them cut promos earlier in the night. We get a banger of a match that went for quite some time. One referee goes down, then another comes out, and Theory somehow finds a way to get behind the backs of both of them to do a low blow, hit the knee, and then hit the A-Town down to retain the U.S. title. Jimmy, your guys, man, why are they looking?
You know what? I don't mind the first ref bump, but unlike the first match, the second referee ran down fairly quickly. So at least somebody was watching the match so we can get that referee. And yes, he went to go check on the other referee or duck something not to get hit. And we got the heel win by Theory, which is fine with me. And I got to tell you, they had a banger of a match. They had a heck of a match. But the whole thing was, Seth Rollins, I think, made Austin Theory tonight. Because yes, okay, he was already U.S. champion and the whole bit like that, won the money in the bank briefcase, that sort of stuff. But he, put his footprint on that championship tonight, thanks to Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins made him look like $1 million.
Yeah, right.
Seth brings out a different level of Austin Theory, in my opinion. Like they are always, they're magic together, in my opinion. I feel like Austin Theory, when he's in the ring with Seth, he looks like $1 million. And I thought great match. I think Austin Theory He has it, in my opinion. And Seth is very unselfish. He loses a lot he is arguably the number 2 guy in the company behind, if you don't count Brock Lesnar, it's Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he lost a bunch of times to Cody, then he lost to Riddle, and now to Austin Theory. But he's one of those guys that he can keep losing because he's gotten to this level that it doesn't hurt him at all.
Right.
But it does help him to get some big wins as well.
you do got to get some dubs every now and again. That's that is a very important aspect of it. But
I mean, when people are talking about Cody coming back and them going back to him and Rollins, I think that's a terrible idea because you don't want Cody to lose right off the bat coming back, and you don't want Rollins to lose again. So they're both baby faces now.
I agree with you. I think Seth Rollins might be the biggest baby face in the company, right? I mean, if you're not counting the fact that we all love Roman Reigns, even though he's a bad guy.
Sami Zayn, Roman, outside of the heels.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, KO, you can make a case for KO.
I think Seth is bigger than KO, right?
I mean, did you hear tonight they're singing his song, his whole match, and I don't know, Rollins, I don't know. I'm a big Rollins fan, so I won't beat that into the ground.
I've never been a big fan of the whole cackling stuff, and it just doesn't feel like natural. But people are, again, I'm one of those guys that I will be like, hey, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's wrong. It's clearly working.
Right.
It's but it was interesting. Something that kind of hurt during this match. This Theory said something about called Rollins something like old timer or it's not your time anymore, something like that, and it made me feel old because I feel like I still think of Rollins as a newer wrestler, the newer generation. It's almost oh man,
me and Jimmy,
he is getting old.
Oh wow, yeah. When you think about what year they mentioned tonight, when you think about how long Seth has actually been there, you go, wow. He actually, it has been there. He's one of those guys in the locker room now that, hey, that's Seth's spot over there. You know what I mean? Don't put your bag over there, kind of thing.
That's right. Hey, Jimmy, when did you start in the business?
I started. Okay, I'm going to date myself badly here. I started working for the Toronto office in 1985.
Okay.
For Jack Tunney, and he was affiliated with WWF at the time.
Right. He did the Canadian stuff.
Yeah. And I began refereeing. I remember it was February of 1987.
Yeah, it was for me. It was 1996, and not even close to what you've done. But, I was typing on a keyboard.
Still am,
Mr. Bischoff.
Yeah.
So I've been around a little while anyway.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Man, so you guys get it then when someone calls somebody.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Think of as old.
They think it's an insult. It's
he's still very young. He still has plenty of years ahead of him.
You say old man, in my head, it's seasoned veteran.
Exactly.
Yes,
someone that knows what they're doing. You know what, Jack? We got to plug Practical Money by the time this is over.
Oh yeah, let's do it now. We're done. We're done with the show. Let's So we'll wrap it up. This was a good episode. Thank you guys. I think we're done talking about the Raw, right? It's a good Raw, right? Any final thoughts on the Raw? Yeah, it's good. It was good.
Do you, real quick. I did real fast. Let's do these real quick. More of the year awards. Who would you say tag team of the year?
You're gonna get mad. I think FTR.
Okay. No, I'm not gonna get mad. I think
there's nothing wrong with that.
Once we turn off the call, you're gonna yell at me.
Yeah, I am. Okay, man. Done on this.
Just really unhappy about your tag team of the year.
But FTR, they haven't had any major pay-per-view matches, just straight up tag team, except for the Forbidden Door. But okay.
But they've been going all over the place, winning championships.
But, on the small scale.
Right.
Seriously, no one's watching. Their matches with the Briscoes. You're talking about no one's watching those. It's like 25,000 people are,
AAA, and there was Impact, and I mean, all together.
Name 3 champions in AAA.
I think all together,
there you go.
if you had everything together, they've got a good 40,000, 50,000.
Oh, wow.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I put the Acclaimed over FDR, actually.
Really?
Except they were only half the year.
Yeah, that's the thing, is half the year.
For me, it's easy the Usos. Yeah, I mean, it's like no doubt. Jimmy, what do you think?
I think the Usos. The Usos have established themselves. You talk about a team that evolved, especially after being champions for so long and still commanding that investment in them. That this whole bloodline thing is just incredible.
I mean, that's also a good answer. I'm not going to argue that answer either. It's clearly one of those two teams, right? Like,
no, don't get me wrong. FTR is. I think they're an incredible tag team. But when you talk about getting me invested in not only their matches and their presentation in the ring, outside the ring, on the microphone, the whole storyline thing, you got to go Usos.
Yeah,
and I know people don't like the term sports entertainment, but that's exactly what this is. And the Usos are.
People could have bangers in front of no people.
Yeah,
it's if a tree falls, doesn't make a sound.
If nobody saw it, was it still 5 stars?
It's like very much like Roman. Like, I'm not going to argue anyone who says the Usos. Man, that's fair too.
Right. And match of the year. Well, we'll finish with this one.
Well,
I got to go Hell in a Cell, Cody.
Yeah,
that one I think I'm going to be thinking about. Like that one, that one's going to stick with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're not counting Vince McMahon coming out of retirement to beat
when he beat Pat McAfee.
Pat McAfee.
It's either Vince and Pat or.
No, but that Hell in a Cell was again. You talk about making a guy Cody establish himself. Unfortunately, getting hurt, but still.
It's weird because when this year it's rare that the top 3 I'm thinking about are WWE. Usually. I'll have AEW is usually 1 or 2, but I felt like this year AEW matches didn't have that drama going to it, and felt like Logan Paul versus Roman was outstanding. Like you said, Cody and Seth, and then I thought Sheamus and Gunther also was just outstanding.
Yeah, so. WWE had a great year in the ring. I feel like
in general they had a great year.
They had I guess in general, all around, really. There was an AEW match that was really good that I can't think of right now, which isn't a good selling point for what I'm trying to say. But
I'm like, wait, was that ROH? Was that AEW?
Yeah,
FTR and the Briscoes, they had bangers. I'm trying to think. W's best match. They had a lot of good ones for sure.
No, they did. Yes, it's just again, there's the problem. It's not standing out enough where you say, I remember this particular match.
Right. Yeah.
I guess that's the thing is like I think, and that's the thing we talk about just buying in the whole Cody Rhodes. For me, that Hell in a Cell, for all the reasons I hated watching it, or all the reasons why I think it's going to stick with me forever as a match that was just like, oh my god.
It was so gross when he took off his cape,
and then when he did it was perfect though, like the slow reveal. Like,
the whole crowd was just like, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this."
We're kind of complicit if something happens, because
I know. I feel like we're all partaking in a crime.
So that was probably. All those are great. But in the moment, though, I will say my soul left my body when Vince McMahon actually got in the ring in WrestleMania. I don't care. When he took I was losing my mind. I was completely unbearable to sit next to. If you were one of the people next to me, that was pretty amazing, too. I was doing the thing where you grab their shoulder and like, shake. This is kind of bad. Can you believe it? I was like, that's happening. I was like a...
His first WrestleMania win, right? That was the first time he's ever won.
I was like a teenage girl at a Beatles concert. I was like, this is amazing. I was like, crying. So this was a pretty good episode.
We digress.
Yeah.
But yeah, good episode all around. Thank you to everyone for watching. You can find us, of course, here on Wrestling Inc. Make sure to follow at Wrestling Inc. You can find us for the NXT after show tomorrow, the Dynamite after show on Wednesday, the SmackDown Rampage after show on Friday. Thank you to everyone who's been joining us. Ricky Palab, am I saying that right? Jeroy J. We got Baby Ice, Night One, Chris Aldridge, and everybody else, Francesco, Dylan, and Rocky.
Yeah.
And before we go, I was going to say, Raj, where can the world follow you and all the cool stuff you're working on?
Check me and Jack out on Practical Money. YouTube.com at Practical Money. I've been investing for over 30 years and just sharing stuff that's worked for me, stuff that hasn't. Jack has changed some of it,
absolutely. I've changed some of my banking because of it.
Yeah. And some of it's just very simple stuff like, look at your savings account. Are you not earning 3% right now? You should be. If you're not, you got to listen to it. And index funds and credit cards and how to get out of debt and just stuff that I did and me and Jack have done and discussing it, and it's not investment advice, it's just stuff that we've done and the stuff that's worked, and check it out.
Cool.
Yeah, I definitely, for whatever your investment level is, you should check it out. We do a good job, at least I think, of talking about things that are both for beginners and for people who have already started. Just, again, stuff that we've done in the past have worked for us, and stuff that if you're interested or curious, maybe you could ask some questions as well. That's Practical Money on YouTube. Check that out.
And this week, I'm going to just reveal my favorite investment of all time. So
it's a good one. You're good.
Everyone that I feel like everyone should do. My daughters, I have them doing it. So it's,
yes, it's a good one. I have a sneak peek. I know what it is. So so we will talk about that. But before we go, Jimmy, where can the world find you?
Obviously, you can find me here on Monday nights and Wednesday nights, talking post Raw, talking post Dynamite, and from Monday to Friday, you can find me on all my social media platforms doing my ref and rants, where, like I always say, it's not to tear down, it's to critique, to help, and have some fun as well in my critiquing. And who knows, got some other stuff in the some irons on the fire. Is that how the term goes?
Irons in the fire, or fires in that. Well,
hands and pies is more my.
Okay,
I prefer the old
something
hands
like
and
that.
pies than the.
Who knows where you might see me next, or hear me next, wherever.
You are the best, Jimmy. We love having you.
Oh, I love doing this, man. This is fun.
Always good chat with you guys. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate everyone who's joining. I appreciate all those like, comments, share, subscribes that I'm sure we're going to get as soon as we're done here. But thank you to everyone. That does it for us. And we will see you guys tomorrow for the NXT After Show.